Okay, right now I want to talk about being addicted and being versus doing, right? Addiction sometimes not only could be, you're an alcoholic, you shop too much, you're addicted to sex, you're looking for everything externally outside of you. It can be something as simple as being addicted to the stress hormones. So, for example, your life is feeling chaotic and crazy, and instead of sitting and feeling what you're feeling, you are doing things to mask what you're feeling. You're trying to escape from it instead of just sitting with it and being with it and accepting it. This is where we're at. This is how we're dealing with it. You have to do. So, perfect example is when my boyfriend had died while being left in solitary confinement for 30 plus days, was left there to die. I did not want to feel my feelings. So I jumped into the first guy relationship, even knowing it was not for my highest good, because I didn't want to feel. So, and that was many years ago, but that is an example of what I did. And externally, this just felt better than having to really sit and go inside. So a lot of times when people die or they're sick or transition, because really I don't believe we really die, we just go on to the next thing, the next level, we just leave our human bodies behind. But a lot of people tend to go into doing mode. Let me not feel this. I'm angry, I shouldn't be angry, I'm hurt, I'm grieving, this isn't how I should be doing, so I'm going to fill up my world with all this stuff outside me, right? I got to get all these things done because I don't want to sit with the reality of what's happening, and I don't want to feel it because that's scary and that's hard and that's painful. And it is. It's not a fun journey. I mean, I tried to escape it, and that didn't work because I ran into the arms of a married man. Well, that was not the smartest choice, right? But to me, it was kind of like, yeah, I don't really want someone full time. I just don't want to be alone. I know that this is totally wrong. Not only am I hurting somebody else, I'm hurting myself. It goes against my beliefs. Like, what the heck is going on? It was like this huge, crazy internal dialogue. And then you go through the spiritual process and you start feeling more godlike. You start kind of like shedding the stuff. You're looking at it, you're facing it, you're feeling it, you're crying it out, you're embracing it. And then you're still confused as to, wait a minute, I'm doing everything right. Why does it feel like things are still not aligning for me? So one big part for me doing, I was a doer, major doer. That's how I was raised, right? Chop, chop, let's get this shit done. And constantly doing stuff. And now it's like they're trying to undo everything that I was trained and say, get more into the being, get more into being still. Make sure you can, even when chaos is around you, you can find your center. So, perfect example of allowing myself to remain centered was, I said in these other videos, I am in Paris right now, but it was the day before I came on my trip. My mom had a second stroke, and some weeks before me even leaving for this, she had her first stroke. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, about our guidance system and trusting and listening, how important that is. But, when I got here and landed, I got a message from my family that my mom had stage 4 cancer, and it's aggressive, and there's not long for her. And it was kind of like, how did they not catch this the first time we were at the hospital? Like, how did that happen? How did I get all the way across the other side of the world? And now you're telling me there's months left, right? So, of course, you're sitting here like, all right, I'm going to jump back on the plane. But you can't. You got to take it for 3 weeks. Unless you got to bucket full of money that you can just, let me spend another $2,000 and get on here and just do whatever, So you're sitting here like, all right. And then you have your mom who's saying, whatever you do, this actually was our conversation before the trip. If I get sick, do not leave your trip early. You're going on this trip. So you're having this conversation with this woman you love most. So silly. And she's telling you, you go. And you do this. And I'm like, okay. So then you get here and you think, you know what? She's fine. Like, we got all the treatment. We got all this stuff. And then you're like, no. You don't have much time. So I could have, when I got here, walked around in misery and moped. But instead, it was I acknowledge she's sick. I acknowledge we do not have time. A lot. Anything's possible and anything can shift. And I believe that. I believe we can heal ourselves. And I'm here for 3 weeks, right? So I chose to live while I was here. I chose to be happy, be at peace, to find my center, to take tons of pictures so she could experience it with me. I chose to embrace being, even around chaos and some really hard, tough things that I'm seeing. And I knew that I was being led, to something. And she knew that, and everybody knows that there's something going on, you're being led, and it's like you get here, and my heart when I landed wanted to stay. Like, like at first it was like, oh, this is how I want to stay. I think it was more my head and my heart, like there was this conflict. And I laid there, and the moment I found out, she only has months to live, I laid in bed, and I thought to myself, if I found out I had months to live, how would I want to be surrounded? How would I want to go out? And of course it was with my family. It was with the people I love the most. So I knew, like, I'm coming back. And because I had intentions to stay here. And so I emailed my parents, actually called them and said, is it okay if I come back and I stay with you for 6 months? Because, I want to help my mom and my dad. And so silly. Release it. Because we can get through this together. This is like the hardest thing about the spiritual path is. This is about empowering, self-empowerment. And when you know why a soul is kind of like swaying off one way, and like you can do this. Like we can do this together. It makes it, and then it's someone who's so close to you. Once you've like figuring it out, it makes it hard to see and witness and observe without feeling. So anyways, back to where I'm going. So I tell them I'm coming. They're like, yeah, we need you here, appreciative, and I'm coming back. And then all of a sudden, so I firm in my knowing. And my son, who has been with me on this journey, receives a message like, this message kind of came before I even left with my older sister about you're staying 11 weeks. And I was like, oh, 11 weeks, like, okay. And then my son gets a message, Mom, I really think you need to stay 11 weeks because, there's something, otherwise everything that you've worked for, it's not going to work. And so I felt like I was torn. Like I'm in this like weird crossroad of my heart is saying, my mom deserves the love and respect and with pure unconditional love to be around her, to hold that space, whether she chooses to stay or chooses to go, she deserves that. And now that I found it inside me, it's only right that I give this to her as a gift. But then you're like, oh, there's this spiritual side and it's calling me. And then you're getting these messages, and so you feel indecisive and conflicted. And you're like, what? Why would God want me to choose from a value that I hold deep within me? And I see, even though, we have things to clean up within our family lines, which I've been working on and have done and feel really good about and want to help other people with, have me choose between going in this direction and being who he created me to be with some people who are really important in my life. Why can't I choose both? Like, it didn't make sense to me. And then I went to some of these workshops out here, and I started noticing what was happening. And it seems to be a lot of people are taking this so serious that they're only choosing one aspect of it. And this is about merging all aspects of who we are, the multidimensional self. Not just solely focus on this and leave your human behind. It's take your human with you. Remember the fun and the joy. It doesn't have to be so serious. And you can do both. And it's funny, I kept getting clips and I'd open up books to watch The Matrix. And so when I opened it up, or read it, watched it again. I haven't watched it since it came out, so I didn't really remember. After I made my decision, why can't I do both? They show, he's like, I can do both. And I'm like, yeah, I can. Why couldn't I? Because someone told me to, that it had to be done this way, or I was being led this way. If I'm the controller of my reality, I want to shape it in. I want all these aspects of me to come together in alignment. Another thing was for me to sit and be still and get really honest with myself and ask myself, what are my patterns? Because this is so important, is not only identifying family patterns. Sorry, I'm sniffling. Not only identifying family patterns, it's identifying your own patterns. And so I sat, really still with that and said, what are my patterns? And I remember when my boyfriend had transitioned, not wanting to feel and jumping into the next thing. And this didn't really feel like I didn't want to feel it. It was more like, being told, go and do this, and then someone else telling me what I need to do. And I could have chose to listen to that, or I could choose to honor me, right? Because this is also reversing some old programming. And before, I was leading from my head and not wanting to feel when I jumped into that relationship. And I remember my son saying he didn't want me to date yet. It was too soon. And I know I could have not have dated and sat more with him because he was grieving too. And I didn't do that. And so I had a lot of work that I had to do around that situation. So in this one, it was like my heart wants to be with my family. And then I'm being told some other things in my head. So this time I get to go back with an open heart to be with my family and not allow the head and anybody else to dominate the direction of where I'm going. I hope this kind of makes sense. I'm not going to apologize for crying because this is real shit, right? This is life. This is what we go through. And I believe that now that I found my center, I want to share it with people and be the example for people. And that's kind of really key in my forefront too, is I want to continuously inspire people to live authentically in their lives and not be the hypocrite I don't want to stress that enough. I have stumbled and failed throughout this journey. I mean, even going through it, you like financially go through this hardship of, I don't get how you become so much more lighter in your body and you understand all these principles, and financially nothing seems to be working out. Like, you're perplexed. Like, how is that even possible? Like, and then you start uncovering this other matrix system, and then you got to navigate your way through and figure this out, and clean up and surrender and release trapped emotions, and wait and be patient and trust. So yeah, so there's my video. Thanks for watching.